I'm Brahima Coulibaly. I'm a senior fellow in global economy and development here at Brookings, and also the director of the Africa Growth Initiative. So Secretary Tillerson's trip to Africa is a very welcome development because since the administration came into office, at least one of the top 3 U.S. officials, the president, the vice president, or the secretary of state, has visited all other regions except Africa. So this trip is a welcome development, and will begin the process of a dialogue that would hopefully help inform U.S.-Africa policies going forward. And it's even more important in light of the alleged derogatory comments that President Trump made about Africa and Haiti earlier in the year. In terms of the clear deliverables of the trip and initiatives, if any, which will be announced, it remains unclear. However, when we look at the set of countries that he's going to visit, it appears that security is indeed the primary focus. Djibouti is one of the countries, and as you know, it is home to the only U.S. military base on the continent, and it's also an important refueling post for the U.S. Navy. And Kenya is a key strategic partner in the fight against Al-Shabaab along the eastern African coast. And Chad is also an important ally in the fight in the Sahel region to secure bring peace and security in that part of Africa. So overall, it really does appear, or it reinforces the perception more broadly that the administration views Africa primarily through security lenses. If you look at other aspects of U.S.-Africa relations, namely diplomatic or economics, we haven't seen as much traction as we're seeing on the security front. For example, if you look at the key official at the State Department for Africa, hasn't yet been appointed. And there's some key ambassador positions that still remain unfilled, such as ambassador for South Africa. From the economic front, the administration, and particularly President Trump, during his UN speech, has mentioned Africa's potential as a viable economic partner. And just to underscore that statement, about half of the world's 10 fastest growing economies will be on the continent. So if Africa does work well with its partners and is able to overcome its development challenges, it could indeed be the single largest market in the world in the decades to come. And that dynamism of the continent is being recognized by other African partners, particularly Europe, China, but also other emerging market economies. And they have been proactive in strengthening their relationship with the continent. We just hope that this trip by Secretary Tillerson be the beginning of a dialogue that would inform a yet-to-be-released U.S.-Africa strategy. But to be clear, it is not uncommon for U.S. presidents to come into office without a clear Africa strategy, and not to have one until well into their first term. President Obama, President Bush, President Clinton did not roll out strategies until later in their term, but they nonetheless turned out to be champions of the continent. So there is still time for this administration to build its own legacy, and we hope that this trip indeed will be the beginning of that dialogue, and as such, it's an important step in that direction.